In today's video, I'm going to show you how to embroider this trendy bow hat. It's an unstructured cap and we are going to embroider it using our single needle embroidery machine. Yes, it can be done. It's a little tricky, but I'm going to go step by step through the process and give you all my tips and tricks along the way. As always, I will link everything I used today in the description box below, so let's get started. So this is just a unstructured hat. It's very flimsy. Some people call it a dad cap. This is a Sportsman brand. You can also get Walmart's Time and True brand is so similar to this one. They have lots of colors. And we're going to be using this fun bow design. It's around 2 inches tall. I have been seeing these bow hats everywhere, so we're going to make our very own. I'll be using my Brother PE900 embroidery machine. It is a 5x7 hoop. I'll be using some tearaway stabilizer. I already had some hat stabilizer. This is like a super thick tearaway. This is very durable, so I'm going to use this along with a sheet of tearaway. If you don't have hat stabilizer, that's okay. Just use 2 to 3 sheets of tearaway stabilizer. You should be just fine. Okay, so we already have our thread loaded onto our machine. We have our design loaded, and now comes the fun part. So we're going to grab our tearaway stabilizer and our 5x7 hoop or whatever hoop you're using with your machine. I'm going to go ahead and add some hat stabilizer as well, and we're just going to hoop it. I'm using the alignment little grid that came with my machine. This is really going to help me find that center line and help me place my hat on the hoop. So I'm just tightening up the screw to make sure all the stabilizer is nice and tight. Then I'm going to take this alignment tool and mark using my old school erasable marker. I haven't used this in forever, but that way I know where center is. So this hat has a center seam that's going to help so much when we're aligning it on the hoop. I am bending that brim of the hat so it's almost flat. I'm trying to get the curve out of it so it's going to fit on our machine and get it nice and pinned to our stabilizer. Now this is the tricky part. You want to be as close to that brim as possible, but with the sweatband, it's realistically about 3/4 of an inch or an inch from that brim of the hat. Is as close as I really could get on a single needle machine. If you have a multi-needle, you can go a little closer, but I think this is a great option for single needle users embroidering a hat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some straight pins. It's a little tricky, so you see I kind of shifted it off my table to get that pin through the hat, through the stabilizer, and I'm doing the bottom and the top of that center line first, kind of looking at my dots underneath and putting pins there. I'm just readjusting, making sure that sweatband is not in the way, and I'm gonna repin this section to make sure that straight line is on the center of my hoop. As you can see, I didn't hoop it how you would think. I hooped it so the bill of the hat would be facing out of the machine because you don't want it banging against the back of the machine. You don't want it getting stuck. So that was the path of least resistance for me. So figure out what works best for your machine. And so since I marked the end point of where I want my embroidery to be, where I want it to be the very bottom, that's gonna help me so much when we're embroidering. So now I'm just going through and making a nice little area for it to embroider on, pinning the sides, making sure there's no bubbles or like wrinkles, and we're gonna be ready to put this on the machine. So you wanna lift up your presser foot if it's not already up, and then we're gonna gently and carefully snap it on. I'm just aligning those 2 screws to my machine, and you wanna hear it click. Next, I'm going to go ahead and load my design, and we're gonna get to stitching. So as you can see, I'm using a USB at this point. I just used the little pocket button and then the little USB, and then I'm adding my design, but you can see it's the wrong way. That was stitched completely the wrong way, so I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees. Now that it's rotated 90 degrees, it's facing the correct way. I wanna make sure that my presser foot and my needle hit right at that center seam. You see how I'm kind of moving that presser foot up and down with that knob in the back to make sure I have the perfect placement. For my bow, I want to adjust it just a little bit, and then I'm going to push it as far as I can to make sure the bottom of my design is as low as I can get without messing up my machine. And so now that I have it where I want it, I'm gonna hit that little trace button, and we're gonna trace and make sure we don't hit any pins. Make sure it's in the right spot. You can see this one, oh, it was a little too low, and I was probably gonna get some sweatband, so I adjusted just a little bit up, and we're gonna trace again. And there we go. I think that's the correct placement for this, and you can see it's right on the bottom of where I marked, so that's perfect. So now I'm just gonna hit OK and hit the embroidery button on the PE900, and we are ready to stitch. So we go over here, but there's a red light, so you have to put your presser foot down, and then your green light will come on, and you can just click the arrow to go. So this is not necessary, but I like to let it get a few stitches in and then trim that long tail. It drives me nuts to have a thread just out there. All right, so now I'm gonna let it stitch. This is real time. I'm not speeding up the stitching at all, so you can really get an idea of what a single needle can do. There will be a few cuts, but this is just a real time stitch. So let's let it stitch out. All right, it is finished embroidering. That was about a 5-minute stitch out. So now I'm just gonna lift up my presser foot, and we're gonna carefully take it off the machine. So you just pull, there's like a little tab to release the hoop, and we'll slide it off. And there you have it. So now I'm just gonna take all the pins out, and then I'm going to take the stabilizer off carefully. It is tear away, but you wanna hold some stitches. I'm gonna trim this little jump stitch at the end and carefully peel off that tear away stabilizer. I like to do one sheet at a time most of the time, and we'll get all those little pieces off. And now we are ready to try it on. What do you think? I think this turned out so gorgeous. I love the dainty details and the fact that you can do this on a single needle machine. So I hope my tips were helpful today. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried doing an unstructured hat with your single needle machine. And again, everything I used today will be linked in the description box below, including this cute bow design, which is super on trend right now. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time, bye for now.